that means rain. That means rains always follow the forest, and that's really the Hawaiian nod to conservation. Um, so anyway, let's the Kona Action Committee will now come to order. It's Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. The time is now 12:01. This meeting is being held in person and by interactive conference technology. The meeting will also be recorded on Zoom. As a reminder, per Sunshine Law, AC members appearing remotely must keep their cameras on and announce anyone who is with them, except for minors, in their location. So, if you don't mind, I'll ask well, first of all, I'm the chair, Charles Young, and we do have a quorum today, I believe, and I'm at home by myself, so there's no one else in my room. So I may ask Dave. Yeah. Why don't you introduce yourself?
David Huerta. Um,
Hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm good. Always busy.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm assuming you're alone in your room?
Yes, I am alone in my room, in
Okay,
my office.
in your office. Okay. We'll go over to Nancy, and then Nancy, if you can just tag somebody, whoever else is in the room.
Okay, I'm Nancy Tsikio. I'm vice chair and I live in Capo and I'm participating in person. Why don't you start, introduce yourself, Charlotte?
I'm Charlotte Thompson, a resident of Kona and a participant of the Action Committee.
I'm RJ Kirschner, member of the Action Committee from Kona.
John Pelletier, Action Committee member. I live in O'oma.
Well, thank you for all being here. And RJ, I'm sorry we missed meeting at the last meeting, and now I'm missing again. I wish I could see you in person, but I'll do my best to fix that the next time. And welcome. And thank you for your service. So absences, we have committee members Rosalind Molina and Heather Karate. Staff, just asking that you introduce yourselves, please.
Jessica Lahip, Long Range Staff.
Aloha, Janice Hata with the Planning Department, Long Range Division.
Thank you for all your work. Is there anyone online from staff? Oh, Jean?
Hi, everybody. Jean Campbell from the Deputy Corporation Counsel's Office.
Hi, Jean.
Or from the corporate. I am Deputy Corporation Counsel from the Corporation Counsel's Office. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you all for your support of the Action Committee. So just some housekeeping. Make sure your cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. If there's anyone who would like to testify, please fill out the sign-up form and give it to staff. I don't know who's present in the room with you, but if you have anyone wants to provide testimony on any of the items, please fill out the form and hand to staff. Zoom testifiers can raise their hand or send a message in the chat to the Zoom host indicating which item they wish to testify on. We ask that everyone please state your name before speaking. To all of you who are attending in person, please remember to speak towards the owl camera on the microphone so everyone on Zoom can hear. Okay, so I'm not sure we have anybody who wants to testify, but first order would be to approve the minutes. And of course, I don't think we had quorum at the last meeting. Am I correct? And so there's really no minutes. Is that correct? Yeah, because I was not there, so I'm guilty of not having been there.
Should I raise the question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jean, I had a question for you from the legal perspective. Are you there? Yeah, okay. We've got the amendment to chapter 92, so now we're operating under the neighborhood board rules. And we were able to meet without a quorum. But the question I had is, it seems like just because we're meeting without a quorum doesn't mean that minutes of the meeting.
You're breaking up a tiny bit, but I think I get the idea. So technically you did not have a meeting because you didn't have quorum. So that's why technically you do not need to have minutes. What you are supposed to do under the law that it was revised is, to the extent that you heard reports or public testimony or anything like that, whatever took place, the folks who were there should report at this meeting to everybody who, to your full quorum now that you are having a meeting. So that's the only requirement, is that you report. Again, if you heard public testimony, if you heard reports, if something took place, you now get to report that back to everybody else who missed out on it last time. Certainly, if you want to create minutes, you can always do more, but you are not required to have minutes.
So if we chose under those circumstances that we thought we should have minutes anyway, we could do minutes. There's nothing preventing it.
There's nothing that says thou shalt not create minutes.
Okay. Well, that clarified the question. Thank you very much.
So am I to understand that if anyone from the action committee who was present at the last meeting wants to report on anything that occurred during the last meeting, may do so now?
Yes, they should do so.
So I'll open that up to the committee members.
Well, I wasn't prepared to give a report on what I reported on last time, but I sat in on the July Commission on Water Resource Management meeting, and I gave a fairly long report on what had occurred at that meeting, and what it had to do with. The agenda item at the July CWARM meeting was to ask the commissioners if they would support moving forward on the Kehoe adopted management plan protocol, and should have staff prepare a first generation adaptive management plan. So I reported on that. The meeting went for 3 hours, so I gave a very brief summary of that whole meeting. But at the end, the commissioners had a lot of questions and concerns and confusion, but ultimately they all voted to support moving forward with the agenda item. So that's my very brief summary of that.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about the Kehoe Aquifer in today's business as well. So we can open up that conversation when we get to it. And anyone else want to report on last week's meeting, which was not for which there's no minutes at this point?
Yeah, I gave an update on Tree City progress. And I can just include that update in the one that I'm giving today, because I don't have as much to give as far as progress and advancement, although there are a couple of very important things. But I can just kind of recap what to kind of catch you up. Because I have that in front of me as well.
Okay, great. Then we can put those on the minutes for next agenda as well. So
Yeah, oh, sorry, Charlie. I was just gonna say, I think for public testimony, we had Josephine was here the last meeting and she testified on the water update. She brought up the concern about the hospital will need a lot of water.
Well, water and that, and data centers, in case the billionaires choose to build data centers here, they take up a lot of water.
Yeah, so concerns about data centers and water for the hospital.
Yeah.
And I think the only testifier was Jeff, if I remember.
From the national park.
From the national park, Jeff Zimber, who kind of chimed in about the adaptive management plan and how it relates to the park like he usually does. And I think, and then Janice, I know, testified on a couple things.
Janice is there.
Hi. I wanted to ask you if the testimony, so if there weren't minutes, were the public comments still include, like, can the rest of this action committee still see the public comments that we made? Or, because I'm not sure if I'd remember what I had brought up or not. Don't want to repeat.
No, there weren't minutes taken of the public testimony because we don't have minutes.
And no recording.
There is a recording.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, there is a recording. So if the action committee members want to hear what was discussed, they could. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. You know, as far, Charles, I see a hand up.
Hello, I was muted. Yeah, I just want to say that I wanted to testify. The chat is disabled, so I was not able to post in the chat. So I wanted to testify on the item Roman numeral 3, number 1, and also on new business.
Okay. You want to wait till we get to that item, Chuck,
Sure,
to discuss?
sure.
Okay.
Mahalo.
Yeah. And okay, so you know, my policy really is to ask whether anyone has public testimony at the time before we start on the agenda items, if they want to make comments, but also they'll be open to comments when we hit the agenda item as well. So I'm not sure. So Chuck, you're online. Anyone in the room have any
Oh,
comment
no,
before we get?
I'm alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're okay. I think it's only us.
I might want to say something on one.
Charlie, Josephine would like
Yes.
to testify again.
On water
On
item.
Yeah.
Which
on
item?
Business item one.
Item.
Okay. Yeah, we should try to we keep the formality of filling out the papers so that our guys know. But yeah, go ahead. You can talk at this time if you want.
Oh, regarding the water item? Well, I wanted to hear, oh,
Well, we can wait because that's agenda item number 1 anyway, isn't it?
yeah, we'll wait.
Okay. I need to do something here on my computer. Just for a moment, please. If you bear with me. Okay, so agenda item 1 is the Kehoe Aquifer System Area Groundwater Adaptive Management Plan.
Mr. Chair.
Excuse me,
I
or
have
am
a
I
point-
reading the wrong paper?
No, I have a point of inquiry regarding the agenda.
Yes.
How is the agenda established? I had been told at the last meeting that if a member had an agenda item they wanted posted on the agenda, they could email it to staff and that it would be included in the agenda if it was done in a timely manner. And I'm curious, what is the process of creating agenda items?
I don't know if staff wants to answer that, but I can certainly. Well, I'll give it a go. Yeah, so the agenda has to be printed within a certain time frame before the meeting. And if the correspondence doesn't get in time, then we can't put it on the agenda. And that's basically the policy that we're following.
Okay, I had made a proposal for an agenda item that was presented before the deadline,
Right.
and it was not included. And I want to know the process by which it was removed.
Yeah.
So staff has to answer that, because
So like what Charlie said, that's typically what happens when either members or members of the public bring something to the committee that they're requesting to be on the agenda. So we'll have a chair, vice chair meeting. Sometimes we'll consult with corp counsel if we're not sure on what exactly the ask is and if it's appropriate to comply with sunshine and all of our requirements. But that's generally what happens in drafting the agenda and any new business.
now he wanted to know why his agenda item didn't end up on the agenda.
I think it's really, our team needed a little more clarity on what the ask was. So we wanted to reach out to Corp Council to confirm if we were interpreting this correctly. And to, I think you mentioned in the initial email, the legal basis for the Kona CDP, and because we had not stuck to the, I guess, the time frame of updates, right? So we wanted to consult with Jean to see if
And that's fine, but I was told that we were operating under Robert's Rules of Order. And by allowing a chair and a vice chair to decide what items are on the agenda, it's making those positions more important than the other members' positions. And I don't believe that that's in compliance with Robert's Rules of Order.
Actually, it wasn't our decision, it was staff's decision.
And I don't think staff has the right to remove items from the agenda.
So that's the,
yeah.
he's trying to say that you should have put his item on the agenda regardless of what you thought about its legality.
Okay,
Because-
and I think that's where we weren't clear until you sent the more clear.
Because the committee can discuss, vote, they can turn it down, it cannot get a second, but to arbitrarily remove it is making a decision for the committee. And that doesn't seem proper to me.
Hey guys, I just want to chime in a little bit here. Sorry, I logged in a little late. Marian
Who's-
Palmer with the planning department. Sorry, I'm not in person there today. From my understanding, well, typically standard procedure is that community members, committee members, anybody that has items to request to put on the agenda, they get sent in either through the committee members just to the chairs or through the planning department. And then we discuss with the chairs all of the items that are being proposed as potential items. Robert's rules is from what I've read and heard is that action committees are running under what is called a modified version of Robert's rules is what I see in writing. With that comes a lot of gray, obviously, because there's no other further definition and because the action committees don't yet have rules of procedures, policies or rules of procedures. So with that comes a lot of gray. I wasn't at this past chair check-in, but from my understanding is that the question, the information, RJ, that you submitted was forwarded to them. And so then when they discussed it, they saw that there was a lot of, it was a big question with a lot of different ways. And there was actually like a multi-part question for which we didn't have an answer yet for Corporation Council because they were off island. Corporation, and so I think how the discussion went was more along the lines of, let's see what Corporations Council advisement is on this portion of the ask, and then let's allow this discussion to get brought up as new business. Anybody, the community member, committee member, can propose new business items on that part of the agenda. But until there's like a clarified, clear decision-making action item, it doesn't necessarily, just because, and also just because an agenda item is proposed, doesn't necessarily mean that it will automatically make it onto the agenda. There has to be some sort of discretion, because across all these districts, the agendas would be like multiple pages long of business items. So there has to be some discretion and some filtering for when the timing is right for that. So I think
Okay.
it was off of our best, like the best way to handle this topic of yours was to share the information to the committee, prepare them that this item was being brought up. And to get those clarification points that you shared, so that you guys could all discuss it and before it becomes a formal agenda item. We have to be very careful with agenda items also because we don't want the public, we e-blast these agendas to hundreds of people on our email listserv. And if we miss word or we make the agenda item too broad and vague, we often get people that don't understand what the item is. And so we like to be more specific and more clear and intentional about the actual items that make it onto the agenda to make sure that we can clarify, so that we don't we don't have people misunderstanding what's happening at the meeting.
I might to
Yeah,
take
go
up a
ahead.
lot, but essentially what you're saying is that staff decides what's on the agenda.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Say that again.
Essentially what you're saying is that staff decides what's on the agenda.
I'd like to think that chairs and staff work together to create that. I don't think anybody at that meeting said, yes, this needs to be as a business item. I think the consensus at that meeting was, it's not ready to be a business item. This is an interesting topic. Let's get advice from legal counsel. Let's get clarification from what is being asked. So I think my understanding of my experience and how since I've been here is that if chairs say, no, this needs to be on the agenda, then we put it on, unless there's no rationale within the CDP document for the topic. That would be the only reason why we would, and like staff would say, absolutely, cannot. But the CDPs are by definition broad and vague, so usually that's not a point.
Okay, well, that answers my question.
Charlie has his hand up.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to add my comments to that. In terms of coming up with the agenda, staff has been very good in terms of taking out proposals as they come for agenda items. On this particular one, though, we had a discussion on the letter, and there was a concern, I think, from staff as to whether that's something they can answer right away in terms of putting it on agenda. So for the purposes really of being erring in caution, because my feeling was that we shouldn't put it on the agenda until we are assured we're not exposing the committee to to some action or taking action that perhaps would conflict with what corp counsel might feel is appropriate for a discussion. So we didn't put it on this one for that reason until we had a more assurances, I think, from corp counsel. So it's a blend. It's not just the county deciding. The chairs, we did meet and we had this discussion for to give you full disclosure. What we did talk about though is that if it's deferred from this one, we have to put it on the next agenda, and that's where it's going to appear.
Okay.
I know it doesn't fully address your concerns, but that's pretty much the process we followed. So rest assured, when you make suggestions for the agenda, they get seriously consideration to it, and so in this particular case, it did get considered. So I believe and we may have this discussion maybe in the announcements, but I believe you sent an updated letter as well. And so we'll probably handle that when we get to the correspondence piece or announcements on this agenda.
That could be under items not on the agenda.
No, but it's correspondence, huh? Can we at least cover that? Because we're not making a motion on it. I'll ask corp counsel. Nope. Okay, let's move on with the other business first, and then we'll get to that when we get down to new businesses.
Charlie?
I see you, Janice. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
No problem. Thanks. Oh, I just wanted to know if the public was able to know what the topic was that you guys were just talking about, like what the letter is, what the points are, or if that's private with just the action committee members and the staff.
Well, my feeling is until we put it on the agenda, it is just a recommendation to staff and to the committee. I think had RJ sent it out maybe for public, that would have been his choice, but I don't think we have that sort of responsibility.
Yeah, we shared out the proposed motion to the action committee members, but I think later on in the agenda at new business, then RJ can elaborate more on his motion and request.
Okay, mahalo. Thanks.
Okay, so we were on the Keoho Aquifer groundwater system. I think Nancy had given some comments. I wanted to follow up on where the AMP is, just so that everyone was aware. So they have formed what they call expert committees, and the areas of expertise they're looking for on these committees were hydrology, wastewater or pollution, Hawaiian inputs from Hawaiians, and there was a fourth that slips my mind right now. That's what I get for trying to do it from memories. Anyway, these committees have been formed, and they are in consultations with them, save for the Hawaiian committee, and I think maybe that's a oversight there, but they're holding meetings, and from the hydrology standpoint, they're trying to understand what the hydrology of the Keoho aquifer is, so that they can better predict what usage or further draw, what the impacts are going to be. And I will say from nobody really knows, because it's a complete unknown. So I don't know where they're going to end up with that. With regards to wastewater or pollution, there's a committee on looking at the wastewater, and their quick summation was that the impacts, and remember now, these are committees are being asked to relate that then to water quality at the shoreline, as well as demand. And so the pollution committee, their real quick sort of resolve was that it's due mostly to pollution if there is degradation. That's where they're going to point. Or the other one were indicators. So they're looking for species indicators. Like, for instance, I think they're going to measure, and they haven't decided yet, but they talked extensively about opaiula as being one of the indicators, because it's, they can study it easily in the alkaline ponds, and the alkaline ponds have been and are affected by water usage, but they don't know to what extent. And the idea is that if these indicators are beginning to show signs of changes or harm, then these are things they can react to in the adaptive management plan. I don't exactly know what that action would be, and they don't yet either. But that's the basis of which they're moving along in terms of creating the plan. And then, of course, the native rights issues have to be taken up at some point, which they haven't done, a full survey of. And then the hydrology. So I don't have a report on the hydrology because I was not able to attend those meetings. But that's where they are as of today. And the meetings are going to be ongoing, and I believe they have a November deadline to come up with a recommendation, I think, for seaworm. And there were other issues, I think, related to the aquifer that I think maybe Nancy, you can catch us up on from the seaworm meeting.
Okay, yeah, I sat through also the August senior meeting, and there was no decision making on this meeting. It was an update. And it went on for several hours. I don't want to go into a big long discussion because, like I said, it went on for several hours, but one key issue is a big discussion about sustainable yield, and not just, in all three lenses that they talked about, because need to understand what sustainable outcome of water is and how it affects all three levels of the, aquifer. And that went on, and also they said the important thing about understanding sustainable yield is it impacts the county water use plan, because the county water use plan can't make a recommendation on, how much development is appropriate if we don't know what the sustainable yield is. So that a lot of discussion went into just that. And they felt that the county hadn't been participating enough in this process, and the deputy director said that she was going to expend more effort to try to get the County Department of Water Supply to be participating in the adaptive management plan process as it goes along, so that they could be more in sync, because they hadn't been really participating or being involved. So, and whatever the adaptive management plan, the data that is a product of it will definitely benefit the county when they update the water use management plan for Tahoe. So I would say probably 45 minutes, between those two items, probably 45 minutes was just on those two items. So there was a lot of discussion, a lot of comments from the commissioners, comments from members of the public, and comments from staff regarding not only sustainable yield, but also how the county planning is gonna be tied into the whole thing. The most interesting thing wasn't the presentation from the staff. It was after the presentation was finished and the staff opened it up to discussion by commissioners. And what was very clear right away from Commissioner Chair Chang is that she commented that to get 3 generations of the adaptive management plan completed is going to take several years. And she felt that the process that was denied in 2017, that the aquifer should be identified as a, what do you call it, a water management area, that this commission should re-examine that petition, not that petitioner, but maybe examine submitting a new petition to have the aquifer designated it as a water management area. And the point was made, well, we shouldn't be waiting until 3 generations of an adaptive management plan are created to discuss whether or not the area should be designated as a water management area. And so there seemed to be a lot of support amongst it wasn't the vote about the designation wasn't on the agenda, so they couldn't vote on it, but it came up in the discussion. So a number of the commissioners seemed to concur with that perspective, and so they said, well, we shouldn't, if we think that the trend is moving toward this commission as compared to the previous commission supporting designation of the Tahoe Aquifer as a water management area, maybe the unrolling of the adaptive management plan and a petition to start examining designation as should happen simultaneously. And they wanted, I think the way it was left is for their next agenda, this month for September, they wanted staff to review with them what would be involved in rolling out, the designation process. So I don't think maybe a lot of people expected that was gonna come up at this meeting. And like I said, it wasn't on the agenda, but it did come up in discussion. So, but I think it was kind of a big deal, because because everybody thought they were there to talk about the adaptive management plan, and all of a sudden commissioners started saying, hey, if we're gonna go through all this work to get all this important information, maybe we should also be discussing whether the place needs to be designated as a water management area. So I don't know if I articulated myself clearly, but I think that was probably the most significant part of the meeting. Did you understand that, Charlie?
I did, and I think both plans running in parallel is actually a good thing. They complement each other, but the timelines I think might be a little long for us, and so we should probably be aware of both. I have no, at this point, I've not, I'm not saying, or I wouldn't discuss whether we support or not support the designated area um, at the seaworm level at this point, until we have more discussion on what there might be, what that is. But it seems like what we're headed for is a better management program than we have now. Um, the county doesn't have its water use development plan. And there doesn't seem to be enough either public input on development that addresses water, because the county usually is addressing zoning. And so I think I'm hoping that this will marry up the two agencies, the state and the county, and so that they're not working in silos when it comes to water management, specifically to the Kehoe aquifer. So thanks, Nancy, for that explanation. But I think that's a good thing.
So I think
Yeah.
on the next agenda, on the next CWRM agenda, I'll try to watch that as well. But I think that this area of designation is definitely going to be on their agenda in some form.
Right. Yeah, and I think there was an effort also by the county to pass a resolution on water. I don't know, John, you might be familiar with that.
Yeah, so at the last Committee on Communications Reports and Council Oversight, the Department of Water Services was requested to give a presentation on the new website they created. So this was from Holeka Inaba, Councilmember Inaba's resolution 137-25. It requested that the Department of Water Supply develop and maintain an online system that displays general water availability countywide, including the number of units, active commitments, and developer agreements. So they presented the website they did make. It is on their, if you go to the DWS main website and you go to the community tab on top and down to water availability map, it'll pull up a GIS map that talks about what the general water availability is in each area, what commitments DWS has given to developers, and then what developer agreements have been made. So the developer agreements are like, if there's a disconnect between how much water they need and how much water DWS can give them, they'll oftentimes drill their own well. And those agreements are listed on this map also. They discussed, some other things like, what a water unit is versus a water credit, which is the same thing. It's 400 gallons a day. They didn't really go into too much detail on some of the stuff I would have been interested in, like, when Kona 3 LLC lost their water credits or what happened to their water credits, for example. But there was some interesting info in that meeting. And the website, I think, is really interesting if you're interested in understanding like where water has been committed and what developer agreements are in place. It's pretty easy to navigate. So that was all that came out of that meeting. But I think it all kind of ties into what we're talking about with understanding how our county is handling water and how that marries with the AMP and what CWRM's doing.
Great, John. Thank you so much. Chuck, I see your hand up.
You're muted, Chuck.
You're mute.
I'm sorry, has the committee, is this a good time for public testimony or when should?
We're on agenda item 1, so if you want to
Okay.
provide comment.
Yes, yes, I've been following, Sierra Club has been following, and many other organizations have been following this issue. I very much appreciated Nancy and Charlie's updates and feedback. A lot of the questions that were asked at the Kona CDP Action Committee meeting, at which the deputy director gave, was presented with some questions. Those questions are still unanswered. One of the points that questions that I had was, were they going to be looking at the water quality and benthic survey reports that are required by SMA permits for many of the developments that have been submitted on a quarterly, sometimes yearly basis for developments all along the Kona coastline. And my memory of her response was that they didn't have the resources to do that. I don't think, given that those reports and the cultural impact assessments contain all of the Na'au and Ike of Kapuna and community members and experts over the years. I think that without bringing that information into this first generation plan, I just don't think it's valid. Just trying to take a snapshot of what people are saying and knowing today. In addition, the let's see, one of my big concerns, and perhaps Charlie can answer this question, or I don't know, I don't know what relationship you're going to have as far as public testimony, but a big concern is that this is getting okay. So we had the effort to get the Keoha Aquifer system designated as a water management plan that went over several years. Back in, I think it started in 2013. By 2017, it was denied, but there were conditions put in place, and so those conditions kind of sat to the side. One of those conditions was that the county was going to update its water use management program, and they did a draft, but then it's sat on the shelf since that time. So many of the things that were supposed to have been done from that previous effort are still have not been done. This current effort really comes out of legislation that came and funding that came before the state legislature this past year that provided funding to do this particular project, provided funding to the Seaworm staff to develop this adaptive management plan. So I think it's really important that we differentiate what this plan is actually doing. Is it complying with legislature's requirements, or is it following through with the requirements that had previously been established by Seaworm after the designation at that time was denied, but there were conditions put in place? That I have not heard actually spoken. I've not read anything about that. So I think that's an important issue. Because, again, for me, my concern is that they're trying to get out this first generation plan, and basically they're going to say, okay, this fulfills the Kapakai o Kaina analysis, and so now we've fulfilled that and we can start drilling wells. And that's not what we want to happen here. So let's see what else, my notes here. Yeah, and is the Department of Water, is the Board of Water Supply involved in this at all? I really think they should be a part of this as well. But the bottom line, and another thing that's not included in this, is there's no mention of water recycling. There's an administrative order of consent between the county and the EPA that we have to, especially at Kealakekee, we have to start putting in recycling. And that we have to expand the service area for sewage, and upgrade the outflow of the water from the Kealakekee wastewater treatment plant. None of those issues are addressed, because the more water you can recycle, the less water you need to take from the aquifer. And I think the overarching thing, and one of the things that I learned from Jonathan Shower, is that we're talking about a underground geological environment in which we don't know what the hydrology is. And it's my understanding that there are 2 wells that were allegedly monitoring wells that punctured high pressure aquifers, and that they have yet to bring them under control. They're like when you have a wildcat oil well and it shoots out and you can't cap it. My understanding, there's 2 of those going on right now in Kona, with wells that were originally supposed to be monitoring. So, is this, are these wells being drilled as monitoring wells? Are they being drilled as exploratory wells? So these are some of the questions I think that have not yet been addressed. And my overarching concern again is that I really do think that there needs to be another petition submitted someone needs to submit the petition. And I really think the best way to move forward with this is to have it designated as a water management area. I think it's pretty clear by now that that's what needs to be done. So thank you for the time, Charlie.
Yeah, certainly. Nancy, I see your hand.
I don't know if you're listening, Chuck, to my testimony, but it seems pretty clear they're moving toward pursuing designation that as a result of this last meeting at Seaworm. But I think, you know, you representing the Sierra Club, I really think you should be expressing these questions and concerns at the Seaworm meeting during their public testimony opportunity, because we're just trying to convey what we're learning on to the general public, but we're not the source of the answers to your questions. So I think you're wasting an opportunity by not testifying it directly at the Seaworm meetings. They are receiving testimony and they are receiving a lot of good questions, and a lot of people are raising concerns, and I think that would be a much more beneficial opportunity for you to participate in.
Charlie, just a comment. So yeah, I've watched the meetings, and the Sierra Club has submitted written testimony, basically, and also we've written articles about those particular meetings and these issues. So I just basically was commenting in order for us to all get on the same page. So thank you, Nancy. I appreciate you.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Chuck. You know, one of the things that we want to be very focused on is the CDP, because that's what guides us, guides the action committee. And we don't want to take too many liberties on how far out of the box we begin to exercise our influence, and how much we take on, you know, in terms of what our staffing and what we have in front of us. To answer some of those questions, though, the CWRM is contacting all the folks that they know of, and we've given them a list of the developers who have already been doing water sampling over the years. Kohanaiki, Kukio, I think there are a couple of others that Liliuokalani, they've been doing that. So we've given them a sort of direction. Whether they're able to do it or not, I can't say. And the county sits on one of the expert panels, or at least is invited to it on the hydrology piece. So I think they're covering that range. You know, again, how successful they're going to be in nailing down anything in, you know, specific, because there's not that much known about the hydrology. And so if anything, maybe we'll just get more information from them. But I think we should support the tracks that we're going, you know, we're taking at this point. But thanks for your comments. Janice. Oh, you mute.
Sorry, I'll keep unmuting myself. I wanted to thank everyone for this discussion, and as much as it may be pushing the limits, I can't think of anything that development depends more upon than water. And so I really think that spreading the word to all these community groups, because you know, the people who are on this action committee who attend this meeting are very vitally interested in the growth and direction that our community goes. So I don't think it's pushing the envelope, but so I just wanted to thank you, Charlie, for, you know, extending that courtesy to Chuck, and Chuck for, you know, definitely for, you know, staying on these important topics, and Nancy also for your suggestion, because, you know, so people know, you know, what agency where they can have the most impact. But I think spreading the word through the community is super critical right now. So mahalo to all of you.
Yeah. I think you have to understand we are doing our due diligence. We are looking at the CDP, but there's only so much time in a day.
I know.
So, yeah. And thank you all for your concern. You know, it was one of our goals was to develop further outreach so people would come to the AC, would talk, you know, and you know, to that degree, I think there's more work to be done. So I don't know, are there any other concerns, comments on agenda item 1?
I think we had Josephine in here with us, Charlie.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, I just wanted to add another water usage issue that that keeps coming up in Kona, and it has to do with all the EVs running around and being, you know, they're using those batteries, and the batteries are very flammable. And from what I'm learning about it is when these cars get into collisions and accidents, you can't put those batteries out with water. And the fire department ends up using the water to keep the surrounding areas from catching fire from that car. And they have to let the cells in that battery burn out in order for the car to end its fire. But in the meantime, what I'm trying to say is those cars, when they get in a collision, they require thousands of gallons of water to put it out. And is the county putting that kind of usage aside for all the EVs that are running around in Hawaii County right now, especially those large Tesla trucks? 3,000 pounds of batteries underneath them.
Thank you, Josephine.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm not sure where to head with that, but it's a concern. Thanks. Anyone else wanting to testify on agenda item 1 or comment?
And
If
Charlie,
not-
I got
Yeah,
something I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
bring up later, but it's about the wastewater treatment plant.
Yep.
I know Chuck brought it up. There is an update to that, but I'm gonna bring it up under new business.
Okay,
The only thing I have to add, because the wastewater came up. During the presentation at the CWRM meeting in August, they went through an agenda of what they thought would be covered in each generation of the adaptive management plan. And they specifically said that questions regarding R1 water recycling was not going to be part of the first generation management plan. And they said it would
Yeah.
be part of the second gen. I don't know how they're determining that, but I since it came up, I thought I'd mention that.
yeah. Well, one of the issues we have to think of is in the county is the water measure, water usage is really estimated by draw. But if you look at water holistically, there's many people on catchment who are using sewers or cesspools or other forms of waste removal that are not getting treated. So I think we have to look at water usage holistically, not just what we draw from the ground, but how we use it and how we return it. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Is there any more comment from agenda item 1? If not, we'll move to close. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so there was the Tree City. Charlotte, did you want to update us on that?
Sure, and Miriam, are you still there as well? Okay. So let me backtrack just a little bit, just to kind of recap and catch you up. So in working to get a Tree City designation, from the Arbor Day Foundation, we need to have the mayor, reinstate his Arborist Advisory Committee. Ideally, we'd like to do a planting plan for Hawaii County. But a step in this path would be to become a Tree City and at least get the advisory committee on board, because that still hasn't been done yet, even though it's been mandated by our county code in section 14, article 10. So he has to reinstate that. It's
Reinstate the Arborist Commission.
correct.
Yeah.
So if he does that, then we've got our standard 2 from the Arbor Day Foundation satisfied. And that would be great. So we're working on that. Miriam and I and Cavello met with Chair Inaba and also with Council Rebecca Villegas to solicit their help in bringing awareness the Tree City's standard requirements to the mayor's attention and to open the budget at Parks and Recs. And that would satisfy our standard number 3, which is dedicated tree care expenditures of $2 per capita annually. We think that we've already got that, but there was just no way to find out unless we have a look at the budget. So we've been trying to work on that. Marion may have an update there for us today. Also to celebrate Arbor Day, that usually is done in November here. We still have time to do that and still submit our Tree City application by the deadline, which is the end of the year. So we've been working on this as well, trying to get, I think that, let me see if I can kind of go through this a little more. Nancy's been really helpful in working on some more of the legislative aspects and administrative aspects of this. Marion, do you want to talk? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go
Awesome.
ahead. Bring us up to date as far as your discussion with Leah and other help from Mike Alameda, the assistant to the mayor.
All right, so I had a call with Le'a, which is with Ka'ulunani, that's state's DLNR urban and community forestry program. So they're basically the ones that will be reviewing these applications as well as the Arbor Day Foundation, but they're the first internal review. So our application is due at the end of this year. I was going over the 4 standards with her and how our county might achieve or not make that cut this year. So just like Charlotte said, we got parks to open up the budget. They're working on that. I touched base with them earlier this week, so they're working on that. So once they show us that expenditure, then we have that. We'll be able to submit that. The next is getting the mayoral proclamation for Arbor Day. I confirmed with Le'a that if we're not able to make that in time, that we can also have county councils, I believe they call it a certificate. And so she said that would be satisfactory. Holeka and Rebecca have both volunteered to initiate that once we're ready. Let's see, that's expenditures, the day, the Arborist Advisory Committee, also known as an AAC. That is a committee that is coterminous with the mayor and is by appointment of the mayor. So because we got a new mayor this year, the previous committee essentially expired, and now it's up to the mayor to reappoint a new committee. He hasn't done that yet. And we would have to show that their committee is active and having meetings. So they would need to have a meeting before we submit the application and kind of show that's happening. And then one more. What am I missing? Oh, the Arbor Day actual like festivities. So we were working with Oscar, the sustainability office within the county, and they said that they would be glad to do that. You know, like a little tree planting ceremony, you know, how big or small we want to make it. Ka'ulunani has made it clear that, you know, they just want some sort of effect to that. So basically all of those are essentially rolling except for the Arborist Advisory Committee that lies in the hands of the mayor's office. A recommendation that was put on the table is that maybe the AC can write a letter to and submit a letter to the mayor's office to help motivate them to fill that committee. I know they've gotten general other requests, but maybe this one, you know, would be a helpful nudge. It is already September of this year, you know. And so Charlotte drafted a nice letter that touches on different points, short and sweet, but kind of help give them some rationale as to why there's a bit of urgency on it. These arborist advisory committees, every county has one, and that's because of a state HRS code that requires that. And so that's kind of there's also that interest in having that. So we can get them, and I believe that committee is made up of five members or 4 members, and then 1 planning department designee. The director will designate somebody. So I don't know if Charla, I think that letter was shared.
I have the letter. I
Okay.
mean, I made copies if you want me to pass those
Yeah.
around.
So
Would
I
that be
guess
all right?
that would be the next step, because if not, everything, the other three standards are essentially rolling. But they're all kind of dependent on that committee becoming active. If the mayor isn't interested in activating that committee, then there's no point in submitting an application this year.
Correct.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. You want me to hand this letter out, or did you already?
I think it's been
Make it
handed out.
available.
Yeah, there's a pile right here, so I just passed it
Got it.
out, yeah.
Maybe it could be share screen. Yeah, and so with any drafted letter that's brought forth to the committee, for you to please review and make sure like if there's any changes you want, or if you don't want the letter at all, that's up to the committee's discretion now.
Since the approval of any approval regarding this agenda item isn't on the agenda, it seems to me that if we want the committee to write a letter and approve the letter and have our chair sign it and send it to the mayor, that action would have to be taken at the next meeting. That would be my interpretation of following sunshine law process. Because if we've got a letter here that we want the chair to sign to send to the mayor, asking the mayor to do something, this wasn't agendized.
But. Point out.
Because it's on the agenda as the Tree City update, that leaves the at least my interpretation with corporation councils is that then it's an agendized item, and when there's update and discussion, then that leaves potential for decision making and action. And so one of those decision making and actions could be the letter. So we've had committees that even don't have a drafted letter, and they write the letter on the spot, and then planning department helps put that together. So it could be an instant like that. But also committee can also ask to push it to the next agenda for actual voting. That's also totally an option.
Well, it's before us now. Well, I mean,
That,
what's the pleasure of the committee?
it was my interpretation that if it was on the agenda, that would imply that you could take action on the agenda item. So I would think that the letter is appropriate.
And you have a copy, Charlie?
We can send one to you, Charlie. Yeah, it was kind of a last minute.
Okay.
Do the board members that are remote, do they have copies of the letter? Because I don't believe they can vote on something they haven't seen.
Yeah, I think they were just sending it out.
Mariam, did you include the other action committee members on the email between you and Charlotte?
I don't believe so. And I think that's a mess up on my part that we didn't add this letter to the meeting packet, but we can share screen it now, kind of like what we did in Hamakua, and then also email it out. It also can be read aloud. It's only a few paragraphs, but
This is just in terms of process. I mean, I think the letter's fine, and it's a worthy cause. I just don't think that something that wasn't in the packet, or, the intent to vote on something wasn't on our agenda, that it wouldn't be appropriate to vote on something that hasn't been, the public has no idea that we were gonna be voting on something regarding this issue at this meeting.
Yeah.
That's a legal question.
Well, no, I tend to agree with you, Nancy, though. I thought maybe it had been distributed, but it has not. So we should maybe vote on it in the next and get everyone to the opportunity to read it. And it would appear in next month's packet. Am I correct?
That would be what I would assume.
Yeah.
And if anybody has any suggestions for amendments, they could make them at that time.
Yeah, well, I think we should get the as soon as possible. So if we have any comment, I'm sure it's written correctly, and we're gonna agree to it anyway. But I feel more comfortable if I did have a chance to read it. Or we could go with share screen right now.
The only caveat is that if it is a little bit time sensitive as far as the action committee being formed and then being able to hold a meeting. The sooner we can get this to it, the sooner we could get this thing rolling and maybe meet our deadline and not have to wait a year to get this thing on board.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
something I've seen other committees do is also, chair is also allowed to call a recess to give the committee time to look at the new information. But there's so many ways. You guys technically have some time.
yeah. Well, Charlie, you work so hard on it, you know, and I would hate to miss a deadline because we have, hate to miss getting it in early, because we have to go through this kind of like process. So I don't mind reading it now. And then, if it's okay with, if it's, you know, the committee's okay with that, let's just go ahead and do that. And then, or you could read it into the record for us at this point. And, and then we could, you know, listen to that and based on that kind of, give.
Chairman, point of privilege.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion for a 5-minute recess for everybody to read the letter.
Is court counsel still on?
Please not. I can ask her to come on board, or I can shoot her an email.
I don't know how to share.
Why don't you, we can take a recess though. That's a chair's discretion, isn't it?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, just share screen it and we'll go into recess.
Yeah, much obvious, Mr. Wilson.
Maybe planning can also throw it into the chat, if that's okay.
That's fine.
So I'm just kidding.
I'm deaf in my left ear.
We can't look up. Specifically on the agenda. Is it going to be voted on?
My understanding is that unless there's an issue on the agenda, there's gonna be something on the agenda to vote on. Like.
Is it the fact that it's on the agenda, meaning might take action?
Rather than just giving it up information, like this item is on there, just presenting. And just choose the letter.
So it's how,
Like, for
so
example.
it's how it's worded on the agenda, if it had said.
You can always check what you
A Tree-City, which is discussion and then said.
Yeah, the staff has been putting that sentence on there for a while and I objected to it because I think.
Is Charlie still on?
I'm on.
Hey, I got an emergency up at our Kohala branch. Looks like our toilets are overflowing and we just had problems up there. I'm not sure how much longer I can stay on before
Okay,
I'm
Dave,
I'm just giving you a heads up.
great. Can you give us a read on this letter? I just read it and I'm okay with it.
I approve it. I vote affirmative to move it forward.
What's the rest of the committee think? Charlie, I know you're in favor of it, so it's just John and Nancy.
I'm in favor, John left, oh, he's back, I support the letter, I just don't think that we should be voting on something that the public hasn't had it wasn't in our packet.
But haven't we done this before, like with testimony, that we've said that we would say like, oh, Nancy will write the testimony. And then.
Yeah, but that it wasn't approved, I mean, it was.
Well, we like kind of pre-approved.
Like when we did our general plan amendments, we had them at the meeting to vote on.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't know, I guess I felt like we have done something like this in the past.
The letter is really only encouraging the county to take responsibility for something, isn't it?
Well, it's the principal thing as far as I'm concerned. The sunshine law is for the benefit of the public.
Right,
That's
right.
not the benefit of us. It's the benefit of the public should be aware of what we're gonna be taking action on. So it should be in our packet in advance.
Charlie, something I'll point out is the agenda item states update on Tree City, followed by discussion on potential committee actions. It, it really sounds like it's informative. It doesn't sound like there's any committee.
We haven't
action
even
that's gonna
voted to
occur.
support the program, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the
Also,
member,
maybe we could do maybe the vote could happen and then we can hold this to forward to Jean and let her, and if it's, she finds it essentially invalid, then we push it for the next agenda.
I'd go along with that as a compromise.
Yeah,
Okay,
Regarding the comment with the sentence that RJ about that agenda item saying discussion or possible decision making or whatever. I sent an email to staff a couple months ago saying that I objected to that sentence because it's sort of a ambiguous sentence as to whether we're gonna be having anything on the agenda that we're gonna be voting on. And I don't think in terms of the intent of the sunshine law, we should be having sentences on the agenda that imply that maybe we may or maybe we may not have items we're gonna be voting on. I think it needs to be really black and white, because that's the whole purpose of the sunshine law. But I support the compromise for in this particular case with the caveat that we're gonna send it to Jean and ask her whether it's something that needed to be agendized in advance.
yeah.
That sounds good.
What's the point of having it in a deadline?
Is that your motion?
are we out of recess?
We're out of recess officially now. Thanks, John. Can we get a motion on that? The
Yeah,
compromise?
I'll motion that we vote on this, to vote on this letter to send to, the mayor pending approval from corporation council.
Nancy will second that.
Okay. So any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay, nay? We're hearing none. Okay, so the motion's passed. With regards to signature, do we need my thing on there or is or is it gonna stay in draft form anyway?
We would put your signature, but only after we've gotten confirmation from Jean
Fine.
that this was appropriate.
Okay, great. Okay, any other discussion on Tree City?
No,
have
but I just,
Oh, I'm
I-
sorry, Janice. I saw your hand up there.
that's okay. I just want, well, thank you for continuing with this, Charlotte. I wanted to just add that whatever discussion you guys come up with next time or whatever motion that you still strongly focus on follow-up management of the maintenance, of whatever is planted. I just think it's an integral part of this or else it will be a waste of time and money. So
Yeah,
thank you. I know I mentioned it before, but I know some of the members weren't there. So thanks.
yeah. That's a good point, though.
I don't
All
know
right.
if you can see me, I've got my hand up. I
Oh,
just want to say thank you to Miriam. Kudos to her. I sent her a very rough draft of a letter that, I'm glad that we didn't see anything close to that as an end product because she did such a magnificent job in drafting this letter. So thank you very much, Miriam.
Yeah, and thanks to you, Charlotte and Miriam, for continuing to work on this.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
definitely support the intent of the letter and hope that the committee gets reinstated and that we can get this through.
Yeah, well, the ultimate goal, of course, is to get that planting plan done and some real doable stuff for our island.
Thank you for taking this on.
Okay, if there's no other comments, can I close this item?
Yeah,
Okay. Janice, your hand is still up. I don't know if you mean that too. You mean to have it up. Okay, great.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So the next is just really public testimony, baby. Public testimony on matters not on the agenda pursuant to SB 869. So there may be public testimony at this point on any any item not necessarily on the agenda, but there's a 3-minute thing just a limit I would like to kind of invoke for this portion, if you don't mind. So we'll just take any comments from the public. Chuck?
Yeah, aloha, Charlie. So I have a couple of times previously requested that this item be on the agenda, and that is the Puahau, the 5 lots on a roadway that are being proposed to be built on Puahau, which in 1999 the Hawaii Island Burial Council designated as a royal mausoleum, which in 2003, according to the settlement agreement, was supposed to have been moved into the state conservation district, which in the 1250 Oceanside Partners, better known as Hokule'a, in their land use commission petition in 2006, stated they were moving it, that it was a cultural preserve area, that it was essential for the customary and traditional practices, and that it was feasible. And also when they did their, the land use commission then required a supplemental environmental impact statement to complete their petition, but they went bankrupt. In the bankruptcy, the settlement agreement was negated. However, the county and state's obligations were still in place. Unfortunately, it appears that the applicant, the developer, submitted a plan for the shoreline management area to the Hawaii Island Burial Council and to the Board of Land and Natural Resources without disclosing the prior commitment to move that area into conservation. And as a result, it has not been moved to this date. I would like for this to be on the agenda so that the action committee can discuss what is the county's obligation, given the fact there's already been a de facto admission that this area is essential to traditional and customary practices, and that it is feasible, and that this involves constitutional rights. So that's
for those of you, thanks, Chuck. For those of you unfamiliar with the Hokule'a development, it was back in the early 2000s, I guess it was, yeah.
No, originally I think back in '93, and then they changed it, yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And I'm sorry,
There-
Charlie, I can present all of the information to.
That's
Yeah.
what I would suggest, Chuck, because I have some familiarity with it, but I really can't get
Okay.
down into the details and into the digging up the actual things, because these things reach my ear as well too, you know. Okay. We'll consider that when we put the agenda together. 'Cause
Wow.
I think that this sets important precedent that we shouldn't be subject to. Okay. Any other public testimony? If not, we'll go to third-party reports. Government officials, the action committee may receive and discuss information from third-party reports by any government official not included in a publicly noticed agenda. The action committee, however, may only make decisions on matters originally raised by third-party reports from any government official at a later meeting where the agenda for the meeting gives notice for decision-making on the matter. So do we have anything from the government that we need to review? No, then we'll close that item. So the next item is new business. And we were going to discuss a potential agenda for next time. So I think we want to reopen our discussion on that, on your request, IJ.
Okay, just for some background. Hawaii County Code, section 16.3 says, a comprehensive review of the community development plan shall commence within 10 years from the date of the adoption. The adoption was 2008. So that review was supposed to have occurred in 2018, meaning we're 7 years late. Section 16.6 of the code gives this board 11 duties and responsibilities. Number 9 says, serve as a steering committee as set forth in the general plan in any comprehensive update of the CDP. So we're the responsible party for undertaking the comprehensive review of the CDP. I'd like to make a motion that the Kona Community Plan Action Committee immediately begin a comprehensive review of the community development plan to determine where it is required to be amended. The review should include a comprehensive utility and roadway plan for the community for the next 5, 10, and 15 years. It should also include amending the areas of the community development plan that have proven to be unworkable, such as concurrency requirements that include roadway developments that are not likely or possible. And then I had recommended 5 potential bullet points to that. A committee should be established to begin the process of a comprehensive 5, 10, 15-year study of infrastructure needs that should include inquiries to the Department of Water Supply, the Department of Environmental Management, and the County Highways Department on how to generate plans to accommodate the predictable population increase to come. It should also include recommendations to the County Council to fund these studies. Number 2, the committee should invite heads of the Department of Water Supply, Environmental Management, and Highways to present their views to our committee. Number 3, a committee should be formed to make recommendations on where the current community development plan has failed and how to amend it to make it more useful. The committee should specifically consider where concurrency has become unworkable and what alternatives there are to these portions of the plan. Number 4, a committee should be formed to make a recommendation on how to generate more long-term market rental projects in our community. There's a lack of RM zone land that can reasonably be developed. Incentives should be created to encourage this type of development. And finally, the end result should be a comprehensive revised community development plan. My motive for this is it's one of our duties as a committee is to undertake this comprehensive review. And number 2, we are chasing young people and the working people of this community further and further afield by restricting supply in this community of housing that can reasonably be afforded by those people that work in this community.
Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah, so what we're discussing is having this put onto the next agenda. And we're going to have a discussion on that and probably some kind of a motion, perhaps amendments and some comments. Is that?
So there was a question, I think, from that we were asking of Corporation Council if this can be done before the general plan is updated. Did we ever get an answer back on that? Or can we get an answer?
I don't think that was the question.
Oh, I thought that was.
The question he had was whether we're past the time limit,
Okay, I guess that was my other question too. I thought there was some talk about if we should do
but that wasn't a legal question.
not a little question.
My question actually was, do we even have a community development plan anymore? Because it says that the county shall commence with a comprehensive review within 10 years.
That was a legal
The
question.
county did not. So there must be, and since it says shall isn't permissive, it means you must. If you must do something and you didn't do it, what is the ramification for that? Does that mean that there is no community development plan?
So I thought Jean was gonna be available to respond to this particular issue today.
Is she not on?
No, well, Jean's not.
So, but regardless of whether there is a current plan or not, we're still the steering committee for creating a new plan. That's one of our duties. Serve as the steering committee as set forth in the general plan and any comprehensive update of the CDP.
Yes, I guess I don't know how much new discussion we could have on this right now, but I guess we're just gonna go ahead and put it on the agenda.
My motion is to add this to the agenda for the next meeting.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, if I can make a suggestion, so that we assure ourselves that it's on the agenda for proper discussion. Is there a possibility we can get a decision from Corp Counsel with regards to first that language shall that's there and what the ramifications are for it not occurring? Because I'm not.
I thought that's what she was gonna be here for that purpose, I thought.
I can actually read an email that Jean sent us after we had forwarded the request to her and she wasn't able to respond until after the agenda was posted. So give me 1 second to pull that up.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it was a motion though, so I think the first order of business is to see whether there's a second.
Oh, we've decided we're deferring it to the,
It's a
Next
motion to
meeting.
put it on the agenda.
for the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll support, putting this item on next agenda. I'll second it.
Okay, so there's a motion to put the letter on the agenda.
To put the motion on the agenda
But the item on
Yeah.
the agenda.
for the next meeting,
For the next meeting, correct?
and I
So,
second that.
yeah, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
No, I think now it's open for discussion and we can,
Okay, so let me read what Jean said earlier this week or last week. The fact that a plan may not have been updated per schedule does not invalidate the existing plan. Take the general plan as an example. We are currently working under the 2005 general plan, which should have gone through a comprehensive update long ago, but no one has suggested that the existing GP is now unenforceable. And then she also pointed out that the Kona CDP was last updated in 2019 following the Missler decision. So technically that came from a lawsuit, but it was updated in 2019.
And they had to go through every sentence in 2019. Okay.
Oh, she's online.
She's there.
Well, did that answer our question?
Jean,
Yes.
the question came up of whether the 2008 CDP is illegal because it's past 10 years since it's been updated, and that chapter 16, it says it shall be updated every 10 years.
No, it is not illegal. It just isn't updated. Much like our general plan, right? Our general plan is from 2005, and many people in the department and the council and everywhere else have been working on updating that thing, and it is still in effect. So just like this one, it is in effect and should be updated, but remains where it is.
my question is, you just used the word should. Should has a different definition than shall. Is there any consequence to not updating something that it says you shall update?
There would be a consequence if there were one written into law, but it's my understanding that there is not. So the law doesn't say it becomes invalid. The law doesn't say somebody gets a fine or goes to jail. It says it needs to get done, and that's all. So I believe the technical term is it's a directive. It's not mandatory, which is a legal way of saying it's essentially an unenforceable because there is no consequence, but it should be updated.
Janice has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Janice, I missed you.
That's okay. I don't know what to say. I want to applaud the committee for keeping a cool head in this. I feel like it's the question of shall and should is a very valid one. It's come up within the community development plan. There's a long history. I mean, it's so interesting to see a person join the committee and virtually come in with guns blazing. And there's been so much water under this bridge and so much energy put into this process. And I'm just trying to be delicate here. I mean, to insinuate that the effort and this whole process could be null and void seems to serve not the people, the huge thousands and thousands and thousands of people who came out in force for so many years to make sure that there was a plan. Because before there was this plan, there was no plan. And without getting into any more details, because it sounds like we'll have next time to discuss it, just making the blanket statement that concurrency sort of pretty much is, undoable or not doable is, that isn't necessarily true. The will of the administration, finances, all the different things that come into play here. The point of concurrency is very valid. And it's something that, has been talked about and looked at and asked for, again, by thousands of people that took part in this process since its inception. So I know everyone here is taking this very seriously. I also would ask the new gentleman on the action committee to, if he hasn't, to review, maybe go back and review all that's preceded this. There's been a lot of administration foot dragging, times when administrations even were thwarting the ability of the action committee to, move forward. So anyway, this project is near and dear to my heart, as it is to many other people in this room and outside of the room. And the insinuation that may not exist was just really struck a chord with me, and I think is counterproductive for our community, our island, the native community, environmental, the economics of our island. And I think it would be myopic to start over. It would be not myopic, it would be very, very difficult and probably counterproductive to take the time that it would take to start over again. And so anyway, thank you for your time. It really struck a chord with me.
Thanks, Janice. I think we got a answer to that question regarding the shall. So it's still in effect, and it's not going to be null and void, at least not supported by legal opinion. So I think that's still it's still worth a discussion though. Not the shell piece, but certainly some of the other points that are being brought up. And maybe again, we're talking about having this and all the questions that they raised for the discussion on at next month's meeting, or having it on the agenda. I, for one, thinks there's too much on this letter at this point for me to digest, and so I would appreciate having the month, to think a little bit, because there's some very, very deep concerns as to whether we can even finance something like that, given what the last CDP, took in terms of the amount of effort from the public in particular. But I think it's worthy of a discussion. At the end of the day, though, when we get finished with this discussion, what is there? What action, if any, the action committee can take or would take?
I don't know. I want to discuss that when we get this on the
Right.
agenda.
Right. And I think that's the question. So we've had a request from a new committee member, and I think we should at least at this point take it to at least to the discussion point, and then see what the committee's pleasure is at that point. So
I thought we had a motion and a second on the floor to put it on next month's agenda. Didn't we?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
can call the question.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
call
so-
for the vote.
you'll call for the question. All in
Yeah.
favor of
Aye.
that
Aye.
motion? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, then the motion carries. So we expect to see this on the next agenda. RJ, I would ask that you help the committee along, in terms of what the first steps would be to some of these recommendations you're making, because the action committee, is comprised of how many people do we have now? Sitting 7, maybe, and I think we need to have some clarity as to certainly we're probably going to have a discussion whether we even have the capacity for this. So, but that's not to say the recommendations are not worthwhile. So we'll put it on the next agenda. Is there anything else that people have would want to see on the agenda at this time? Make recommendations for it.
Charlie, I have two potential things, that I don't know for sure if I want them to be on the agenda, because I think it's gonna depend on how council moves, but in the finance committee last week, there was a bill that was introduced to, put into the CIP budget $31 million for the upgrade of Kalakaua wastewater treatment plant. That meeting was really hopeful. It sounds like they really are, seeing the urgency of this. They've got an idea of how to move forward to comply with the lawsuit. This will make R1 water available, but they're still doing a feasibility study with how to deliver it offsite. So, I've been a big advocate for the regional park, and it needs water from this. So they're still doing the feasibility study for it, but there's progress, and I think it's really great on a lot of fronts. I would, if depending on how far it gets through council, I would like to support the bill, but it might already be all the way through council by our next meeting. So that's why I'm saying potential action item I want to bring up for next meeting. But if it's already on its way through council, then I don't think it's, necessary to bring up. The other one I have is Bill 63. Bill 63, it opens up housing in MCX zonings. This one I think will probably be passed by the time our meeting happens, but it's gone through the planning committee on council, and it's gone through the Leeward Planning Commission, both approved. And it opens up housing in MCX districts. Kona has the most MCX
could
zoning.
you explain to everybody what MCX is?
MCX?
Yeah, MCX is mixed commercial industrial, so it's very light industrial. Currently, you could have like schools in them. You could do it's not like MG, which is heavier industrial, and they put kind of boundaries on how far away housing should be built from the boundaries with MG. I like the idea. I think the idea of mixed zoning is a good one, and urban infill is one that is supported by our plan. There's concerns with the bill, specifically. I think it'd be something that if it comes to us and it's still being considered in council, we can provide comments on. For example, they're not allowing recreational use in the zoning. So I think that should be, if you're gonna have housing, you should allow recreational use. So there's just questions like that. Again, I think it might be through council by the time our next meeting comes up. So that's why I'm not saying we should have it on the agenda right now, but I'll be in touch with you and planning about if by the time, our agenda is coming up, if we should put it on there or not.
Yeah, no, great, John. Usually we have these meetings, the agenda meetings, maybe a week or so, at least a week or so beforehand. So if you can just, let Nancy or myself know, or planning know that we should have further follow-up, and we'll make sure that gets on the agenda. Yeah.
Could I make a comment on that? Or
Yeah, go ahead, Janice.
so just one thing, if it does come up before we get a chance to talk about it here, that I've been thinking about with that is a lot of the industrial zoning, even light industrial, does cause some contamination of the land there. So I just think that there needs to, make sure that we don't have Superfund sites that we're building low cost housing on, you know, just keep that in mind. Thanks.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir, yes, sir, RJ.
the MCX zoning allows commercial and industrial uses. It allows offices, retail, light manufacturing, warehousing. I would be concerned when you introduce housing into that it be restricted from short-term rental housing.
Yeah, it'd be definite.
Because otherwise you're gonna be creating hostels and small hotels in what really should be the area where work gets done in this community.
Yeah, these are the exact kind of discussions I'd like to have. Like I said, it might be through council by the time we get to our next meeting, but this is exactly the stuff I'd like to talk about it. And provide comments on for the bill if you can.
And the parking requirements for MCX are different than the parking requirements for residential. I kind of think that this, I mean, council may be in favor of it, but I would really suggest that be looked at carefully before you start creating slums in your industrially zoned areas.
Yeah, I'd, if it isn't already through council and we, I think we should leave the opportunity for when we put it on the agenda for potential decision-making to potentially submit testimony. So I think that the wording for the next agenda, if we have it on the next agenda, it shouldn't be just a presentation by John. It should be potential testimony by committee on this council proposal. So things like you're bringing up we can express formally our interest or concern or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I think maybe we should put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
And that with the caveat that there's potential recommendations. On how it be handled.
Exactly, yeah. The only reason I'm hesitant about putting it on there is it just might be through council at that point. It might be through its 2 readings. If not, I would like to do this though, for sure.
But I think one of our duties here is to make advisory to the county council on what they do. And
it is, but we had a big discussion with Port Council about that, where we can tie it into CDP policy. We're allowed to give input to, but if we can't justify how it applies to language in the CD, but I think there'd be plenty of language in the CDP where we could tie it together so that Port Council wouldn't disavow our participation.
I think simply the parking issue, because residential requires more cars than industrial or retail uses, and you're gonna create an awful lot of additional parking in those areas. It's gonna congest.
Well, even the recreation issue, is that, I mean, you're gonna have housing, but you're not gonna allow recreation. You know, so there are a lot of issues, like John said, but they may have already finished second reading by our next meeting.
Yeah, that's the only thing I want. If it passes before we can meet again.
Yeah, well, should we just have it on the agenda anyway? Even if the horse is out of the gate, we should still have, you know, we could still write something that say you shouldn't allow this in future developments or whatever. I don't know.
Up to John.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Okay, let us know, John.
For now, yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Kind of the last question I had too, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time for it, is that I'm gonna be off island. Is our next meeting on the 14th or is it on the 7th?
The 7th.
The 7th, okay. I'm gonna be off island on the 7th. I was gonna bring it up at this meeting and see if it's possible, or if it would be okay to move the meeting to the 14th. If that's unworkable for everyone else, it's fine. I'm just throwing it out there that I'll be off island for the next meeting.
So if we're discussing the date of the next meeting, if for John to be here, I'm available on the 14th, but I guess we have to check with everybody else, to see if that's a possibility.
The 14th would actually work better for me. I have to be on the mainland during that time period as well.
Right on.
Okay.
What do you think about that, Charlie, the 14th?
I'm looking at my calendar.
Okay.
That works for me.
Awesome. If
Does
we
it
can do
work
that.
with staff?
Take staff off their cadence.
Yeah, I apologize, staff.
That should be fine. Yeah.
Sounds like it should be fine.
This is the only AC that meets at this time too, so it's generally not an issue.
Okay,
Okay,
So as far as I also think we should put the Cahoe Adaptive Management Plan, as a placeholder back on the agenda, just to provide opportunity for updates, not for decision making.
and then if we're also, if we're unable to submit this letter on
Right.
council's recommendation, to put
Right.
it back up on our agenda
Maybe
for,
some Tree
Yeah.
City.
yeah, the
what
Tree
we
City
do.
one, yeah.
any other additions?
Not that
I
I
can't
can-
think of any now, but if you do, try and get it in as early as possible. You can send it to planning or to myself or to Nancy. Okay, we good with that?
Yeah,
Okay, so there's an announcement. The planning department is currently seeking applicants for the Kona CDP Action Committee and the Cultural Resources Commission, and request assistance in spreading the word to the interested community members. The applications can be found on the mayor's office website.
I have a short announcement too, Charlie.
Sure.
Could I just say something to that, what Charlie just
Sure.
said? Okay, I've
Yeah.
been trying to apply to the action committee for over a month, and I was told that the online form was incorrect. And then I never could get back into, I've called numerous times to get in touch with the person who had called me and said that they also sent me an email. I never got that either. So I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know if this is a problem just for me. But if whatever application form is on the Hawaii County website should be the one that you use, but she said it was an old one. I don't know.
so it's with the mayor's office.
Yeah. I haven't been, I've been handed from one rep to the other, been on hold for 30 minutes. It's just been crazy. So, thanks.
Janice, we can follow up with Micah Alameda with the mayor's office for you. He
Thank
usually-
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you put the email in the chat so Janice can maybe make a copy of it? And maybe I don't know where you're sending things to, but this is the one that's in our announcement.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you saying are you gonna email me or you're gonna just put it in the chat? I didn't see, the chat was off and I was looking at it before it was closed.
I think right now Jess can drop Micah's email in the chat, but I was also gonna follow up with Micah and copy you so you guys
Okay.
can, yeah, communicate. Yeah, he's really responsive, so I'm not sure what's happening with that.
Okay, it was somebody else that I had heard from. Okay. So should I call the office or it'll be on the chat? I'm sorry, still not clear. I know the AC members are gonna get something. Is it gonna be something I can see? Oh, okay, I see it right there. Okay, the email address. All right, great, thank you.
Okay.
So my quick announcement, the Kona Airport is going through a master plan update. They've initiated this really long process to update their master plan. I attended their initial meeting and I got something in the mail, so I'm pretty sure this is for the general public. They're doing a master plan update community meeting here at West Hawaii Civic Center on Thursday, September 25th at 6 p.m. I don't know exactly where. They didn't put what room it's going to be in, but it'll be here at the Civic Center. So I think that'll be informative. The meeting I went to was informative, and I think it's important for us. They highlighted in their initial meeting that they want to follow amongst a lot of things. They want to be consistent with the Kona Community Development Plan.
What time is that?
It's at 6 p.m.
You said that was in December?
September 25th. So in a couple
Oh,
weeks.
Oh, okay.
You said the 25th?
Yes, September 25th at 6 p.m. here at the Civic Center.
Okay. Okay, if there's no other announcements or business, I'm gonna move to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, before I just want to say thank you to everyone for your time today and look forward to meeting RJ in person. Thank you, Gene, for being on board to help us through that political, I mean, not political, but legal quagmire. And for everyone's testimony. Janice, you had a parting comment? Your hand's up. Okay. Okay. All in favor of adjourning, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay. Hearing none. Meeting's adjourned. Have a good
Thanks.
day,
Charlie.
folks.
Aloha.
Hope your
Aloha.
back gets better.
Hoi ho.